Giants personnel questions, the run defense, the future of Daniel Jones, all that and more on a Twitter Tuesday edition of the Locked On Giants podcast. Coming your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up in the app stores. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in all caps in the game store. Hello, New York Giant fans. Welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm Patricia Traina. It is a Twitter Tuesday today. Your questions taking center stage. And as always, you guys did a great job with the questions. I'm really excited to answer them. We have a small size, I guess you could say, mailbag, about 12 questions. So they're still good. We're going to go through them, a variety of different topics. Now, if you submitted a question and you don't hear it on the show, it means I got it after I recorded. So please don't give up. If you still have a question you want to ask me, you can still tweet it to me, Ask PTrain. Make sure you use that hashtag. And what I'll do is I'll answer it on the Giants Country mailbag, which publishes every Saturday. So never fear. I've got you covered either way. Let's get right into it. We're going to start off with a question from Tired Golf Dad via Twitter, who says, excuse me, at what point do the Giants put Golladay in to run some go routes or just to expand the field? At this point, if he is useless, should we try to get the 10K per stride he takes? Maybe he catches one and something sparks. All right, Golf Dad. The Giants are done with Golladay. It's pretty obvious. He only played one snap in the game against Washington. I don't know what you mean about the 10K per stride thing, but look, if Golladay was going to be a contributor, I think they would have found a way to get him in there by now. It's obvious that those two sides are headed for a divorce. So I think, as much as it pains me to say, because, you always want to be optimistic, you always want to see things work out and whatnot, but Golladay and the Giants are headed for a divorce this offseason. I don't see any way he is back next year. So, time to move on, I guess. So, all right, next question from Elizabeth Contreras. If you could only re-sign one between Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins, which one would you pick and why? All right. Good question, Elizabeth. I want to see, I'm just looking up Isaiah Hodgins' contract. I think, let me just double check something. Okay, yeah, he is a free agent after this year. Gosh, I would probably say if I had to pick one or the other, I would go with Hodgins, only because I think he's going to be a little cheaper and maybe not have as much of a market as, say, Slayton is. I like Slayton. I would have no problem if they brought him back. I just don't know that he's going to be back. I right now, I think, I don't even want to say it's 50-50, but if I'm Slayton after, the Giants asked me to take a pay cut, I would probably explore my options elsewhere. So I'm not sure he's back. I think Hodgins is more of a guy that the coaching staff likes because they've had him in Buffalo before. I mean, they like Slayton, don't get me wrong, but I think of the two, I think Hodgins will probably be the cheaper to re-sign. So thank you for your question. All right, up next, we hear from Rejuvenated, and I apologize, guys. The stuff gets cut off when I clip these things, so I don't have the full Twitter handle, unfortunately. But anyway, Rejuvenated asks, what is Jackson's status, McKinney's? What is Collins' actual role? looked good last night. Is he playing linebacker or box safety in the sub packages? All right. First thing with Adoree Jackson. Right now, I'm recording this on a Monday, so this is subject to change. The Giants are practicing on Tuesday, but they don't have to file an injury report until Wednesday. I believe, and I could be wrong here, but I think they're targeting this weekend. Now, that is going to depend on how much Jackson can do and how much, discomfort he still has in that knee. So, really a wait and see. Unfortunately, Brian Dable is not much help when it comes to the injury questions. So, I would say Jackson probably has a better chance than McKinney. McKinney now, you asked about his status. And McKinney, see, here's the thing. Um, if that hand wasn't stable enough to put in a club after having the pins taken out, I question how much functionality he has in that hand. So I think at the start of this week, as of Monday, there was hope he might be able to practice. But if I had to take a guess, I think he's probably a long shot to return this week. That hand is just based on what we know about that hand, that he had pins put in it, then the pins came out, it still wasn't stable enough to put in a club. That hand sounds like it really got messed up. Not just, a hairline fracture or even a compound fracture, it sounds like. So, yeah, I don't have a good feeling about McKinney being ready for this week. Now, could he be ready later, like against the Colts or maybe even in the finale against the Eagles and maybe even, for the playoffs if they get in? Possibly. I'm not counting on it. I hope he is. I'm not counting on it. So, that's kind of the status there for those two that I know of as of Monday night. Now, again, we'll have a better idea on Wednesday. All right. Now, you asked about Landon Collins. I'm looking at his snap count. He had 27 snaps on Sunday against the Commanders. And let's see, he was down in the box 13 times. Primarily, let's see, the bulk of his 13 times in the box, 9 times as slot corner, 3 times as a wide corner, and 2 times down in the line. So he was primarily a box player. Now, his 13 box snaps, according to Pro Football Focus, 3 at left inside linebacker, 2 at LLB, 3 at right inside linebacker, and then 5 at right linebacker, which I'm assuming when they went to sometimes they go with a 3-4 and a 4-3. So they mix it up a little bit. But yeah, Landon Collins primarily used down in the box. So hope that helps you. That's Pro Football Focus. So thanks for your question. All right. This one's from Jonathan S. I think it's Jonathan Schmidt. If Kafka eventually gets a head coaching job, how much would the offensive playbook change? To say how much of the current offensive scheme is from Dable and how much from Kafka. Also, how much of a difference do you think a play caller can make? All right, a big difference, Jonathan. If you have somebody who is creative and has guts, can make a big difference as opposed to someone who coaches scared. To your question about how much the playbook is going to change if Kafka leaves, which I don't think he's going to. I'd be surprised if he does, but I don't think it's going to change that much. I think most of that offense is Dable's from Buffalo. There are elements of Kansas City in there. And, even if Kafka leaves, they don't have to change it. There's no proprietary thing which says, okay, Kafka left, so we can't run anything that Kansas City runs. No, that's not how it works. I will say this, offenses and defenses do change based on personnel. So it's not so much what's going to change per se if Kafka leaves and another offensive coordinator comes in. Certainly another offensive coordinator will have his own ideas on what to, implement into the offense. But It's also going to depend on personnel. That's going to be, I think, the biggest deciding factor as to what changes and what stays the same. So, hope that answers your question. All right, we have plenty more coming up on today's Twitter Tuesday here on the Locked on Giants podcast. Don't go anywhere. Hey, Giant fans, have you ever wanted to show the NFL GMs how it's really done? Well, you can start by hooking up with Ultimate Football GM, where you have the final say over every aspect of your roster. Among the decisions you can make include hiring the coaches and coordinators, making trades, drafting, and free agency. All of this done in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go, as you want, and when you want to. We at the LockedOn NFL Network are already competing against each other, and we're having a blast. We know you will as well when you compete against your friends. So go ahead and get started. Locked On Giants podcast listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, in the game store. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up in the app stores. That's ultimate-gm.com, Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today, and don't forget that promo code Locked On in all caps to get your 100% boost. Hey, Giant fans, Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, whenever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, UK, Canada, and coming soon to Australia. Whether you're looking for a luxury car for a special event or something to get you from point A to point B, or maybe you just want to test drive a specific model before making an investment, Turo's wide selection can deliver. And speaking of delivering, many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms and conditions apply and exclusions apply. Forget boring car rentals and find your drive at Turo.com. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked on Giants podcast. I am Patricia Trainer. We are doing a Twitter Tuesday answering your questions, and let's get right back into it, shall we? We'll kick it off with Ruben Martinez, Empire PR man, who asks, I thought the performance by Kayvon Thibodeau reminded me of LT for a game. I am happy that fans got a sample of what LT did in every game when he was at his best. Do you agree? All right, Ruben, I think you're asking me if I agree that KT kind of had, shades of Lawrence Taylor, the great Lawrence Taylor. Yes, to a degree. I thought Kayvon Thibodeau was disruptive. He, the lights came on and he came to play. Look, I've been saying all along about Kayvon Thibodeau, the sacks and all the plays were going to come eventually. What he has done especially in the last several games, and I don't think a lot of people really take note of this because they look at this, the actual tangible statistics. But Thibodeau has made it easier for other guys because the more good pass rushers you have, the more you create a pick your poison scenario for the offense. So, all right, on Sunday, they had Leonard Williams, they had Dexter Lawrence, they had Azeez Ojulari, they had Thibodeau. Pick your poison, Commanders. Who are you going to double team? And if you're double teaming, say, Ojulari, guess what? Now you've got to, hope that your other guys can beat the Giants one-on-one. So, look, it's a great setup that the Giants had. I think, and I could be wrong here, but I'm wondering if this might have been the first time the Giants had for a full game Ojulari, Thibodeau, Lawrence, and Leonard Williams for a full game. Maybe, yes. I'm trying to think. Maybe it was. I'm thinking it was. And I'm not counting the game a few weeks ago when Leonard Williams started it and then the neck injury knocked him out. I'm talking a full game, and we saw the benefit of it. Those guys came to play Sunday, and boy, was it beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. So, yes, but to your question, did I see little hints of LT, the great Lawrence Taylor from Thibodeau? Yes, little hints. I'm not quite ready to put Kayvon Thibodeau in the same sentence as Lawrence Taylor because Lawrence Taylor, as you guys know, changed the game. He changed how, teams blocked him, just totally um, revolutionized the whole position. Thibodeau is not there yet. Will he get there someday? Possibly, but he's not there just yet. Got to develop some more counter moves, and I think maybe that will help him get to the next step. But anyway, next question comes from walking_Chris, aka Gary. Do you know the Giants order waiver? Okay, I think you mean the waiver wire order, which corresponds to the draft order. So let me look that up for you real quick. Tankathon would have the full order, but let me just see. So right now, according to Tankathon, the Giants would draft 24th, technically 23rd. I mean, and I say technically because right now Miami is slated to draft 23, but their pick was forfeited because of the penalties that were assessed on them earlier in the year. So technically the Giants are 24, but you can say they'll have the 23rd overall pick. It's kind of weird, but so anyway, the waiver wire order reflects I believe it reflects the draft order, which is based on record. So, if the Giants make the playoffs, they're going to keep dropping for as long as they're alive. So I think that's where they stand right now. Hope that answers your question. And again, that's on Tankathon if you want to check that out, tankathon.com, which is a pretty good site. They have the draft order, they have mock drafts, and all kinds of other cool things if you want to check that particular site out. All right, so thank you for that question. All right, next we have a question from Drew Koch. Jamie Gillen may be the highlight of a good Giants special teams performance this week, punting 3 punts within the 20, 156 yards that got the Giants out of a very tight spot, and a 42.6-yard average in the game. He has some rough weeks. Is he back next year? Drew, I do think Jamie Gillen is back next year, but I also think he's going to have competition. I was surprised that he didn't have competition this year. I think the Giants, it would behoove them to bring in competition for him because you're right. Jamie has been inconsistent, but he has a big leg, and you don't give up on big legs. So if they can get him back, why not? But I would bring in competition because, that just blew my mind. Coaches always say, oh, we like to create competition. And where was his competition? You can't, you can't even say that, oh, they needed the roster spot for other spots. I just didn't get that, to be honest with you, Drew. So, it is what it is, I guess. But I do think Jamie Gillian, they'll probably look to bring him back. Whether or not they can pull it off, we'll see. But I think he will probably come back, but with competition. All right, Giants fan, NY Giants News asks, what do you think the big problem with the run defense is? Because when you look at it, we have 2 dominant defensive tackles. The spot I think is the biggest problem in the run game is Mike LB. Jalen Smith is awful. He gets blocked and gives up. Should Landon or Tay start over him? All right, Giant fan, Tay Crowder was benched, in case you haven't noticed. Leads the team in missed tackles. All right. So if we want to talk about awful, I mean, look no further than right there. What do I think the problem in the run defense is? Let me just take a look real quick at Pro Football Focus. I want to look up something really quick. All right. So Jalen Smith, in the run game, only 3 missed tackles. All right. And he's played 275 run defensive snaps. That's not horrible. Not horrible at all. Compared to let's see. Stops. Let's talk about stops, which are tackles made close to the line of scrimmage. Amongst the inside linebackers, 19 to lead the team. All right. So I'm really not sure why you feel that that Jalen Smith is awful. But that said, to answer your question, I'm going to show you a chart from the NFL, the media site that the NFL uses for stats. So I'm going to put up a chart here. And for those of you who are listening, as opposed to watching this on YouTube, what I'm showing here is the average yardage and the rank of the Giants' rushing defense. That, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see that chart is on the right side of the screen, whereas on the left side is the passing. So to answer your question, look at where the left tackle, look at the left edge, just take a look at the rankings and the average gain. All right. Where's the biggest gains coming from? So to read off this chart, the average gain off the left end, 6.76 yards, ranked 28th. Left tackle, 5.98, ranked 28th. Left guard, 5 yards per carry, 24th. Up the middle, 4.75, 28th. Up, let's see, right guard, 5.23, 24th. Right tackle, 6.40, 20, I think that's 28th. And right end, 5.02, 11th. So what I think is happening is, I think they're getting gashed more so on the edges than anything, because what's happening is guys are coming up the middle, and it's up to the linebackers to A, fill the gaps, or B, funnel the runners out to the edges, where the outside guys stop them. And, there are guys that are playing outside linebacker, that still, you can run right at them. Zimenez still has problems when you run right at him. So, that could be part of the problem. But there's no question that the Giants need more linebackers. They need more speed at that position. I don't think they have enough speed. Next year they will get Darian Beavers back healthy, hopefully from that ACL. But they're going to have to address that position, because I don't think they have enough speed. And then the other factor is the chemistry. You keep changing things up, and now all of a sudden guys aren't, the run fits aren't there. So it's a combination of things. I don't think it's one or two players' faults, but it's a combination for sure. And look, it's been a season-long problem for this team, and I'm sure Joe Shane is going to address it, because you can't have this every single week. All right, so thank you for that question. All right, we have about 4 more questions coming up. We'll get to them right after this. Hey, Giant fans, playing daily fantasy based on player projections has never been easier when you visit prizepicks.com. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they go on to score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you win up to 10 times the amount of your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks is currently operational in over 30 states and in Canada, and they offer projections on every sport. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less, and PrizePicks offers safe and fast withdrawals. Download the PrizePicks app today or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. Don't forget to enter that promo code LOCKEDON at sign up at prizepicks.com. Hey, Giant fans, thank you for making the Locked On Giants podcast your first listen every day. Now, for your second listen, make sure that you're checking out Locked On Sports today. The biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less. Plus, get instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On's take of the day. Locked On Sports today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. It's a Twitter Tuesday. I'm Patricia Trainer, your host. And now we're going to get to the email submitted questions. So we got a few that came in via email. Again, if you didn't hear your question answered on this pod, means I got it after I taped. So send me an email. The email address is lockedongiantspodcast. So you can send that to me, your questions to me there. You can tweet the questions to me. If you wish, just tag them Ask P Train. And I'll just pop that. It's those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'll just pop the email address on the screen. It's lockedongiantspodcast@gmail.com. If you tweet them to me, my Twitter account is at Patricia_Traina. And tag them Ask P Train, please. That way they show up. I have a column specifically devoted to Ask P Train. So if I see them in that column, I will get to them and I will put them in the Giants Country mailbag that drops every Saturday morning. So please don't be discouraged. Reach out and I'll get to your questions. All right. We have about 4 more on today's edition of Twitter Tuesday. So let's get to the email ones. Jeff N asked, now that Ben Bredesen is back, will the Giants keep him at left tackle and move Gates to center? All right, Jeff, Bredesen's a guard, not a left tackle. I think you meant to write guard there. I do think he will stay at left. I think he will stay at left guard. Yes. He is the backup center, as is Nick Gates. I found it interesting that he played as much as he did, but I kind of understand why they did what they did with him. They want to get him back into the flow of things. And, one of the things I haven't gotten around to doing, and I hope to do it actually after I finish taping the show, is I was kind of curious to get back to the film and see how the Giants run game did, when they were rotating different guys in there. So I might go back and take a look at it. That's not a knock on Nick Gates, but you wonder if guard is Gates' long-term position with this team, assuming he comes back, that is, or are they maybe thinking of, not re-signing John Feliciano for center and moving Gates to center? But of course, they've got to, sign Gates first before they worry about any of that stuff. So still to be determined what the long-term future is. But thanks for the question. All right, next up, Andrew G asks, what a win. Not going to talk about the refs and calls and no calls. Do you think Daniel Jones solidified his chance of coming back next year? Yes. Andrew, look, I know this is going to be unpopular and people are going to probably, come at me in the comments on YouTube, probably send me emails saying that I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But here's the bottom line. Daniel Jones hasn't been the problem with this team. And I say that because, look, he hasn't had receivers. His offensive line has been shaky. Now, I'm not saying he should have everything perfect. No quarterback has everything perfect. But my goodness, quarterback's got to have receivers, decent receivers. And the Giant receivers that they have, guys that are, the number 1 receiver right now, the number 2 receiver, the number 3, those guys would probably be 4, 5, 6 in practice squatters on other teams. So, look, the Giants, they've got to put better talent around him. And here's the other thing to consider. If Daniel Jones is doing what he's doing now with this talent or lack of talent that he has, what can he do with better players around him? I mean, the possibilities can be endless. So I think the Giants will look to bring him back. And here's the other reason why I think they will look to bring him back. As I mentioned in the previous segment, when in response to the question about where the Giants are in the waiver wire order, they're in the 20s. All right. If they make the playoffs, they're going to drop even further. Or actually, they're going to be in that same range. They ain't trading up to get one of the top quarterbacks. It's just not happening. Not with so many other needs. I mean, I've said this before. Daniel Jones is a guy they can win with as opposed to in spite of. There's a big difference here. So I do think They roll with him. They give him maybe a short-term contract, 2-3 years tops, and if he outplays it, then they rip it up and they give him a longer term deal, a more lucrative deal. If he doesn't, well, guess what, folks? There's going to be other quarterbacks in future drafts. This is not the last draft for a team to get the quarterback. So I would not wring my hands with worry if Daniel Jones is back. I know for some of you, that's asking a lot. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel, and that's how I think the situation is going to play out. We'll see. All right. Joe G. Let's see if speaking of Daniel Jones, if anybody can't see Daniel Jones as the franchise quarterback, they should make an appointment with the eye doctor tomorrow. Then he mentions Evan Ingram, and let's see. Wow, sure could use him. You think this game will quite all right? He asked, will this game quiet Giant fans about drafting a quarterback we don't need? All right, Joe, first off, can we move off of Evan Ingram? I know you've been following him, but he's not on this team. And sitting here and saying, well, I wish we had him, wish we had the look, I wish for a lot of things that have gotten away, decisions I made that I can't get back. Move on. Let's stop dwelling in the past already. All right. They've got a decent tight end in Daniel Bellinger. Let's move on here. Come on. Now, as far as Daniel Jones, as I said before, I can't speak for other people. I know Daniel Jones is always going to have his detractors. Eli Manning had his detractors. So did Phil Simms, for that matter. And what did it take for people to finally back off and say, hey, maybe the Giants aren't so bad at quarterback after all? What did it take? Yeah, playoff wins, Super Bowl wins. Simms won 1, Eli won 2. And as I recall, once those happened, people stopped belly aching about the quarterback. So, I could see the same situation with Daniel. Maybe it's going to take some playoff wins, certainly a Super Bowl appearance if he should be around when that comes, when that comes up. But people are always going to have opinions. You're always going to have detractors. Look, you're never going to find a topic that I think everybody agrees on. And that's fine. As long as the disagreement is civil, that's fine. That's why people are people. If we all agreed on everything, how boring would that be? So that's that. All right. Thanks for your question. One more on this Twitter Tuesday. Antonio D writes, minus Wan'Dale Robinson, would you say next season the Giants will have all new starting wide receiver core? Possibly. And I say possibly because is Colin Johnson in the plans? Colin Johnson, of course, was injured, suffered that season-ending injury back in training camp. Will he be part of the mix? Will Isaiah Hodgins be part of the mix? Will they re-sign Darius Slayton? These are all possibilities. Will Sterling Shepard be back? Possibly. Can't rule it out. So I don't know necessarily that I wouldn't say that the Giants will have all new receivers. Will they have some new faces? Absolutely. I mean, as I've said before, Kenny Golladay is probably not going to be on this team next year. Kadarius Toney, obviously they shipped him out. I think Darius Slayton is going to test the market. I'm not so sure that David Sills and Marcus Johnson are long-term options for this team. I think Isaiah Hodgins could be a guy that they re-sign. His contract is up after this year. Colin Johnson, as I mentioned, if he's healthy, will get a chance to make this team. But yes, receiver is going to be a big, big need for this Giant team because what they're operating with now just leaves something to be desired. So Joe Shane's got a healthy cap situation. He's got a projected, I think, 11 draft picks. Might get more. You never know. He'll fix this. I mean, I have confidence in him. He will get this fixed. All right, Giant fans, that will do it for today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast. Twitter Tuesday edition. Hope you enjoyed it as always. And again, if you did not get your question answered, if you sent a question in, send it to me again on Twitter at Patricia_Traina, Traina. Email it to lockedongiantspodcast@gmail.com. And I'll pick it up and put it in Giants Country, the giantscountry.com mailbag on Saturday. So love doing these mailbags with you. I appreciate the questions. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the Locked On Giants podcast for a new episode. Thursday will be the crossover show with Locked On Vikings. Friday, it's either going to be Thursday night or Friday. I have to get with Tana and Bad Dog. Bad Dog is out still partying last I checked because of the win. But we'll do another episode of Locked On Giants Live. And then, of course, we will send you into the weekend with the hopes that the Giants get that playoff berth. They need several things to happen in addition to a win. So I put those scenarios up on Giants Country if you want to check them out. But yeah, we will keep our fingers crossed. It looks like playoffs might just be coming. And I hope I remember how to cover playoffs because it's been a while. So, all right, Giant fans, thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow.